you're feeling the pinch after another expensive Christmas, you're not alone. On.For is starting the new year with an average credit card debt of £452, according to a poll of 4,000 consumers carried out for comparison site uSwitch. The same research found that collectively, British shoppers loaded almost £8.5 billion of debt onto credit cards to pay for their festivities, and now half of us believe we'll still be repaying what we owe next December. Depressingly, the comparison site found 8% of the consumers it surveyed are still paying off credit card debt from Christmas 2016. Almost half, 48%, of those questioned said they were entering the new year worried about their level of debt, with 9% extremely worried. And the debt charity StepChange has reported that nearly 350 people started its free online debt advice tool Debt Remedy on Christmas Day this year, with January and February the busiest months of the year for the organization. However, it's not all doom and gloom, and the good news is that, if you have unsecured debt you'd like to rid yourself of in 2018, there are a handful of simple things you can do to repay what you owe faster. Here's a list of them from the This Is Money team, and some of our most trusted personal finance experts. Do everything you can to make savings, so you can put aside more of your disposable income every month to pay off your debt. The more you pay off each month, the less interest you'll pay overall, and the quicker you'll be debt-free. As well as being stricter about what to choose to buy in the first place, make sure not to overpay on items you could get elsewhere for less. So shop around to ensure you get value for money on everything from groceries to clothes. You should also review all your long-standing and often forgotten about regular payments to make sure you're not paying for things you no longer need, and find out if you could be spending less on products and services you depend on. For example, uSwitch says that between 1 April and 30 September 2017, at least 10% of people who used its service to switch energy supplier for both gas and electricity saved £491 or more. If you've got a good credit score, you might be able to cut the cost of your borrowing by moving your debt to secure a lower interest rate. This is particularly the case with credit card debt.If you have debt sitting on a card that is charging a high rate of interest, perhaps because the introductory 0% purchase offer that made you take it out in the first place has ended, you might be able to transfer your balance onto a card with a better rate. The table below from moneyfacts.co.uk summarises 12 top balance transfer credit card deals that all charge no interest for a set period of up to 38 months on balances moved to them. Personal finance expert Andrew Hagger from moneycoms.co.uk says, to put it into perspective, if you had £5,000 on a credit card charging interest at the market average 18.9%, it would cost you £79 per month in interest charges. So, over a year you could save more than £940 by transferring to a 0% card. But bear in mind that all the card deals listed below charge a one-off fee for moving money to them. Lloyds Bank, Bank of Scotland and Virgin Money charge 3% of the debt being transferred, so always bear in mind this cost when calculating overall savings. You should also bear in mind these 0% interest deals are reserved for customers with the best track records of managing their finances and who have squeaky clean credit files. If you have more than one source of debt, such as several credit cards, it may be cheaper and easier to consolidate them. This usually involves taking out a personal loan for the amount of money you owe elsewhere. The loan money is used to settle all other debts, leaving you with a single debt to settle. It can also be worth borrowing more money than you need. This may sound counterintuitive, but the maths make sense. For example, you can borrow £7,500 from TSB over 5 years at a Best Buy interest rate of 2.91%. That would cost you £134.46 a month, or £8,067.60 in total. So it costs £567.60 to borrow the money. But borrow £5,000 and the rate jumps to an eye-watering 9.52%, which takes monthly repayments to £105.06, and the total repayable to £6,303.60. That's a borrowing cost of £1,303.60, more than double the cost of the £7,500 loan. However, be careful to make sure that you don't spend more just because you're borrowing more. You can put the extra money into a good savings account ready to pay off your first installments. The latest research from moneyfacts.co.uk shows that the average rate on an unsecured personal loan is 4.6%, based on a £10,000 loan over 5 years. However, it warns that with growing scrutiny into unsecured debt by the Bank of England, interest rates on these products could rise in 2018, so the lowest of the low rates could start to creep up. Rachel Springle, finance expert at moneyfacts.co.uk, says, "It's clear to see that personal loans can be a popular choice for borrowers looking to consolidate their debts, and as we enter the new year there may well be those hoping to rein in their credit card debt by moving it over to a more manageable loan." There are pros and cons to doing this, as with a credit card borrowers can change their repayments from a fixed payment to the minimum repayment in times of crisis, but with an unsecured personal loan borrowers must be sure to keep up with a set repayment each month. However, a loan could be perfect for those who can't resist the enticement of using more of their credit card limit and who need a sensible product to pay back their debt over a fixed term. She adds that may also be useful to revisit any older loans as well, as chances are the interest rate charged is higher than what could be achieved today, even looking back just 5 years ago. The average loan rate on £5,000 over 3 years was 11.7% back in 2013, but today it's just 7.2%. Before applying for a new loan to transfer debts into, however, you should work out what any early repayment charge may be, and see whether they would still be better off switching. And make sure to shop around, because non-high street loans are typically cheaper. Springle says, the lowest rate on the market today on a £5,000 loan over 5 years comes from Hitachi Personal Finance at 3.4%, while the lowest high street bank loan for new customers is priced higher at 4.5% from Santander. It's worth keeping in mind that the main value that can be gotten from a high street loan is the same as that of any other loan, namely the rate. As such, loyalty doesn't really pay. First Direct pays £100 to new current account customers, Halifax £75 and M&S £125, but in M&S vouchers. This can give you a handy cash boost, or reduce your bills in the case of M&S should you shop there. The switching process is now quick and simple, says Hagger, plus if anything did go awry in the switch there is a built-in guarantee that you will be refunded any costs. If you're worried that you can't control your debt, Jonathan Chesterman, debt advice manager at StepChange Debt Charity, has the following advice. If you're struggling to keep up with the regular payments to your debts, your borrowing is going up each month, or you feel your debts are getting too large and difficult to manage, take steps to deal with them before the problem gets worse. Dealing with debt can be difficult and can feel overwhelming. The first thing to do is get together all your paperwork to know the total amount that you owe. The next step is to build a detailed budget. You can do this yourself or use some of excellent tools that are available online. This will give you a clear picture of what you have coming in and going out, and what you can realistically put towards repaying your debts. It's crucial that you make sure before putting money to repaying debts that you have allocated money in your budget for your essential living costs, food, clothing, travel, etc., and what are called priority bills. These are things like mortgage, rent, gas, electricity bills and council tax. Once you've done your budget, it might be that there are areas where you can cut back or reduce your bills in. Switching energy company.A and B. It might be that there are some ways that you can increase your income, for example by claiming all the benefits you're entitled to. If you still don't feel like you can repay your debts, you may want to speak to your creditors, those you owe money to explain your situation and see whether they'll accept reduced payments. However, if you don't feel comfortable, or they won't accept reduced payments, then contact one of the free debt advice agencies that can provide independent advice and support on your options. Don't ignore it. 50% of our clients say they waited over a year between worrying about their debts and getting any help. For many people, that year is a time when things simply got worse. The earlier you tackle the problem, the chances are, the easier it will be to deal with. Also, don't be afraid to ask for advice and support. There are a lot of options out there for dealing with your debts. There are formal and informal options available to you depending on where you live in the UK. There are different pros and cons for each option, so it's crucial that you get advice before making any decisions.